These sound bites are out again in order to justify the appalling loss of life in Gaza. And Blinken and Biden both believe that this is a war that can be controlled by rhetoric and by the knee-jerk yank of a leash, like pulling in an angry dog. It doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. The dogs of war have their own way of devouring the land and leaving no stone unturned and unspoilt. War is back against Hamas, and if Blinken says Hamas cannot remain in control in Gaza, then that's a red flag for Israel. It's not a red flag. It's a flag for Israel, and that almost gives permission. 105 hostages, and there are 137 hostages remaining in captivity. And letting the pause turn into a lasting ceasefire would, as far as Israel is concerned, repeat the problem that has existed every time it deals with Hamas, leaving the war zone and leaving Hamas with an opportunity to regroup, build more tunnels, and attack again. And this is why, in principle, Israel believes it has no choice. It has a choice. The choice, I'm afraid, has got more complicated because it failed to harness world support at the point when it engaged Hamas. Had it harnessed the UN, had it harnessed a task force that was primarily composed of armies drawn from the Arab states, then it would have been in a much better position to pursue its eradication of Hamas. I don't think there's any great Hamas supporters in the Middle East. What there are people who are appalled by the loss of life in Palestine, and that confusion of the two things. To call for peace, to call for for the security of the Palestinians, can easily morph into a calling for a victory for Hamas. And at the moment, of course, Hamas can gloat that it's seen the return of a lot of Palestinian prisoners to the West Bank, that its strategy has worked as leverage against Israel. And that's a difficult message for Israel to sell to its hardliners. It's a difficult message for the government of Israel to sell to its hardliners. And so now Hamas is hunkered down in its tunnel system, like Shelob, and waiting for the infantry and the waiting for the offensive, which will rack up a cost in Israeli lives and a cost in ordinary Palestinian lives, and Hamas will turn around and say, well, that's the price of victory. This is a war that really cannot be won, and the longer it goes on, the more it perpetuates the environment that created the war in the first place. Israel's defense minister said the entire Israeli society is united behind the goal of dismantling Hamas, even if it takes months. And Blinken apparently said, you don't have the credit for that. You don't have the international support for that months of campaigning. And he tweeted later, to continue down the path of terror, violence, killing and war is to give Hamas what they seek. But I'm afraid that's just rhetoric, and rhetoric is not persuasive, and rhetoric does not do the job. What does the job is a clear alternative strategy, and that has not been advanced by America to Israel. It's not been advanced by the left wing in Israel, and it's not been advanced by the militant Palestine supporters and Hamas supporters around the world. What is the solution? Well, the Hamas supporters, of course, want Hamas to emerge with some measure of success. What is the solution? The solution was to get the international bodies involved. That is no longer a solution. So what is the solution now? And that is much, much less clear. I think the solution is for Israel to demonstrate its commitment to the humanitarian ideal which underpins a civilized, coherent nation, and that is diametrically opposed to the terrorist state or the terrorist organization that doesn't give tuppence for either its adversary or its own people. I think it's essential for Israel to open its gates and to take in the sick, the dispossessed, the needy, and to give them security in its own borders. And I think Israel needs to bite that bullet, because if it doesn't, it is setting itself up for a most monumental failure, because in the end it will be forced to leave Gaza and Hamas will regroup and will return. What Israel needs to do is to remove the civilian population. It's got two choices. It can push them into the sea. It can push them into Egypt if Egypt will open the Rafah Gate, which it won't. Or it can invite them into Israel in some form. And just one family member in Israel receiving top-rate medical care would be enough, I would imagine, to certainly control a number of civilian families within Gaza. And that level of control, that level of message of peace, it would require a change of heart. I think it would require a change of government. But that, I think, is the only viable future. The rest is about a continued flare-up of Hamas activity every couple of years and a litany of death. Nobody wants that.